everybody. Welcome to Workin the Workbook. This is an online class to help you make the most of the workbook for students in A Course in Miracles. I'm Amy Torres. Workin the Workbook is going to support and supplement the workbook practice in the course. What I'd like to do first is invoke the Holy Spirit. Let's say a prayer. Let's sit in meditation for a few minutes. Welcome in this year of the workbook practice and the transformation that will inevitably, guaranteed, occur as we see it through. So get comfortable in your seat and close the eyes. Let the breath come naturally. This holy instant do we give to you, God. Be you in charge, for we would follow you, certain that your direction gives us peace. We are not bodies, we are free, for we are still as you created us. Therefore, we are spirit, infinite, eternal, formless, changeless, innocent, unified, loving, light. Help us step back and let you lead the way. Help us be still an instant and go home. Wiggling your fingers and toes. When you're ready, floating the eyes open. Gently coming back to the room. A Course in Miracles only uses the word meditation twice throughout the entire writing, the text, the workbook, manual for teachers, just twice. But it uses the word exercise and practice quite a bit. It redefines what a miracle is, what forgiveness is, what salvation is, what atonement is, what many psychological terms are, what the ego is, projection. A miracle is a shift in perception, according to the Course. And what we just did, stepping back and letting God lead the way, opens us to have a shift in perception, where rather than experiencing ourselves as a person and being the seer and being the doer and being the seeker, we become that which sees. And that is what the Course calls vision. Can you feel the connection as I sit here and gaze with you? Gazing is how Rumi, the Sufi mystic from the 13th century, awakened. Gazing into the eyes of the beloved and beginning to see the beloved in everyone. Can you tolerate being seen through eyes of love? This will be one of the things that we'll work on during this year. Tolerating your own experience. What I'd like to cover today is what Working the Workbook is about and how to use the online classroom. And then it is day one, so it's the day to do lesson one. But before we do lesson one, we have to do the introduction. The introduction to the workbook sets up everything. So I'm going to do the introduction with you. If you have your book, you can open to the workbook. You know, the text goes to about page 660 something, and then the workbook starts again with its own page 1. So if you want to read along in your own book, I'm just showing you, you'll find the spot that says A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. They have apps now. You can download this into your phone. You can probably find it online for free. Maybe if you go to the original publisher, the Foundation for Inner Peace, I think they may have a version there that you could just read there. But it's nice to have a book. For one thing, you can use the workbook if you're not a person who is afraid to mark up a book. You can actually start to make notes right in the workbook, and that can be reinforcing. There's something sweet about it. My book is all marked up, and it's amazing to look back and see what came from a meditation, to see what truth popped into my head that I jotted down and forgot all about it until the next time that I looked at that page. But I also offer you the worksheets, and you might want to print those out and use those. You can hole punch them, put them in a loose leaf book. You can buy, one of those really nice journals that they have in Barnes & Noble now. You can make your own. However you do it, the first time around, a journaling process can be very helpful. On the other hand, there are no rules. And sometimes it feels good to find out that when a truth enters our mind, it can stay there. I've had truths come into me that I didn't write down, that I've never forgotten. They just arise and arise again because they're always there for me now when they're needed. Either way, there is something, especially for newcomers, that's important about journaling. It helps dredge up the darkness, the shadow side. Okay, here we go. Introduction. A theoretical foundation such as the text provides is necessary as a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningful. Yet it is doing the exercises that will make the goal of the course possible. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. It is the purpose of this workbook to train your mind to think along the lines the text sets forth. It's interesting to know that we're brainwashed by the world, and we're going to receive a real mind training, an unbrainwashing, here from the workbook. The exercises are very simple. They do not require a great deal of time, and it does not matter where you do them. They need no preparation. The training period is 1 year. The exercises are numbered from 1 to 365. Do not undertake to do more than one set of exercises a day. This is really the only caveat that we're given. Don't do more than one exercise a day, one lesson a day. Not unless you want to go crazy. They're rich, they're potent. You can linger on a lesson and spend 2 days on it or so if you want, not perfectionistically, but just because there's something about it that calls to you. Or you can just knock off one lesson a day and make it through your year, and then if you want to really, make the lessons juicy, you can just do the practice again. You don't have to. It says at the end of the workbook that once you've done the workbook, from now on, you can just follow the voice of your inner teacher. But your inner teacher might tell you, why don't you do the workbook again? That's been known to happen. The workbook is divided into 2 main sections. The first dealing with the undoing of the way you see now, and the second with the acquisition of true perception. With the exception of the review periods, each day's exercises are planned around one central idea, which is stated first. That's the title of the lesson. This is followed by a description of the specific procedures by which the idea for the day is to be applied. So at certain points we hit review periods because we need a rest and we need to consolidate the ideas that have come before. In those review periods, we might cover 5 lessons in one day. Other than that, though, it's just one central thought a day. Today's idea is, nothing I see in this room means anything. Go to the classroom and click on lesson 1, and you'll see what I have to say about that. The purpose of the workbook is to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. The exercises are planned to help you generalize the lessons so that you will understand that each of them is equally applicable to everyone and everything you see. This word generalize is important in the course. So normally the way we learn is that we specialize. Even if I become a doctor, that's not special enough. I have to become a cardiologist. We specialize. But the course would have us generalize. We don't love one person more than another. Love is a state of mind that we enter into with anybody and everybody. And if we're doing the course sincerely, we begin to realize that we're all facets of the same mind. There's only one ego mind, and we each have a sense of a personal self, but we are an aspect of one ego mind, so we are each other. The first miracle principle, which really sums up the entire course, at the very beginning of the text, there are 50 miracle principles. And the first one is, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not bigger or harder than another. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. You see, miracles are not meant to be spectacles to induce belief. They're not, God's fireworks show. Sometimes they take that form because it makes sense in that situation or with that person. But all a miracle is a shift in perception where we get it, that we are unified and we step outside of time, we collapse time in that moment, and the love that we already are flows through us. You string enough of those together, like pearls on a necklace, and boom, you have the atonement, the big awakening. You know, for those of you who get hung up on the Christian terminology or the male gender, I want to mention that those issues are raised a lot, and actually anything that we're triggered by is a forgiveness opportunity. It's something for us to look at and see where we're feeling victimized. And there's an article I wrote called Shekinah, Divine Feminine, and the Holy Spirit, which you can find in the bonus room. Shekinah is the feminine expression of the Holy Spirit. A Course in Miracles, translated into Hebrew, refers to the Holy Spirit as she throughout the entire course. Isn't that interesting? Transfer of training in true perception does not proceed as does transfer of training of the world. If true perception has been achieved in connection with any person, situation, or event, total transfer to everyone and everything is certain. On the other hand, one exception held apart from true perception makes its accomplishments anywhere impossible. We're actually becoming aware of our inner light and sharing our inner light. That's transfer of true perception means. So it's the same spiritual principle of giving is receiving. Normally, we think that giving is a loss, that there's subtraction involved. I gave you something, and now I have less. But the Course teaches us that true transfer is I give you, and I have even more, because it feels so good to give, and it's my natural state. And that giving is receiving, and it's just a flow of giving and receiving. There is no loss. The ego believes in division and subtraction, and in fact, the ego calls that multiplication. Watch the metaphysics video. The only general rules to be observed throughout then are, first, that the exercises be practiced with great specificity, as will be indicated, and this will help you to generalize the ideas involved to every situation in which you find yourself and to everyone and everything in it. So we're doing these exercises very specifically, and paradoxically, that will result in generalization of seeing all of our brothers with love. It's true. Take my word for it. Second, be sure that you do not decide for yourself that there are some people, situations, or things to which the ideas are inapplicable. No exceptions. You can't leave out one bad guy that you particularly think does not deserve to be loved by God. Nobody gets left out. This will interfere with transfer of training. The very nature of true perception is that it has no limits. It is the opposite of the way you see now. The overall aim of the exercises is to increase your ability to extend the ideas you will be practicing to include everything. This will require no effort on your part. The exercises themselves meet the conditions necessary for this kind of transfer because it happens naturally. It's our natural state. Some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. This does not matter. You are merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do. You are not asked to judge them at all. You are asked only to use them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and will show you that they are true. In fact, Lesson 9 tells us that we do not have to understand the practice. We don't have to understand the concepts. It says, I jotted it down, these exercises are concerned with practice, not with understanding. The workbook is about practical application, and when we make the effort to apply the lessons specifically, then our understanding blossoms spontaneously. Remember only this: you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept them, and you need not even welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy, but do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains. And whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than that is required. That's the introduction to the workbook, and it prepares us to dig into Lesson 1. That the workbook is going to flush up deep feelings that may be uncomfortable for us, buried thoughts that we're afraid to face. It's a no-brainer that doing the workbook is going to make us uncomfortable. It should make us uncomfortable. If you exercised, would you get anywhere? You know, if you did sit-ups or push-ups and didn't feel sore afterwards, what's the point of stretching if you don't feel that Charlie horse in your hamstrings, you know? But at the same time, we don't want to overdo it, because we can only open to the extent that we're not afraid. And I'm here to show you that on the other side of going through all of these really disturbing, scary, guilty, shameful feelings is liberation, is beauty and grace. And of course, my practice is still an ongoing practice too. I'm here to be your anchor and a comfort and a connection, because even though we are cultivating a relationship with the Holy Spirit, it can feel lonely and disorienting to do the workbook without another human around. One thing that we've done is set up a private Facebook group just for Workin the Workbook people, so that you can interact with each other and share what's going on in your practice and get support from each other. Even when one of us is in the formal position of teacher, we are always teaching each other, because to give a miracle is a temporary situation where we realize that somebody else is calling for love. Somebody else is more afraid than we are. And in that moment, we have the presence of mind to open to Spirit and say, help me help this person. And when we do that, the miracle flows through us. There's a surge of living, loving light that radiates us from within, illuminates and heals us. We receive the miracle in order to emanate the miracle. And we're not in charge of what that miracle is supposed to accomplish. You know, we might think this person needs a job, or this person needs a healing from an illness. It doesn't matter what we think. All that matters is that we're willing to open to guidance. And then the ripple effect of miracles is absolutely amazing. They affect lives that we'll never even know about. But we will know, in the sense that as we get used to doing this practice, we will uncover a feeling of well-being, of gratification, of fullness rather than emptiness, of loving purpose rather than anxiety and depression. And I share from my own experience. Kind of hold my hand out across the gap and say to you, you can make the leap, come on. If I can do it, you can do it. Or like a dance teacher. Here, let me show you the dance. These are the steps. Now you do it. My experience has led me to become a Gestalt psychotherapist, which is very much about here and now, I and thou, you and me. So it does what the Course asks of us. It brings us into the present moment, and it cultivates relationship. Gestalt psychotherapy opened me up tremendously, and I became interested in body-oriented psychotherapy because I myself had a yoga practice going. And in yoga, I was crying my heart out in the middle of certain poses. I was opening up in psychotherapy and crying in yoga. And I began to realize that there's a very strong connection between muscle armoring, which is Wilhelm Reich's work, and that's the work that I studied. And out of that grew bioenergetics and core energetics, if you've heard of those things. But no matter, it's just that I realized that we're holding memories in our muscles all the way through our skeletal structure into our cellular memory, are the deep stories within us that we have made unconscious for various reasons here in the dream of the world, simply because it's impractical to be aware of everything all at the same time, and also because as a society and a culture we don't want to know, and because a lot of these memories are pre-verbal, so they're not remembered in language but in a felt sense. The workbook will help us uncover these things, and I actually know how to help you process through what's coming up and how to tolerate what is coming up, how to make a decision between what is too much, when should you back away from a lesson, and what is a good working edge for you. You can email me and ask me questions, and I will respond to each of you personally. I'll let you know if that becomes too much, but for now I'm hopeful that I can really mentor you through this year. And of course, I'll clarify concepts. So, there are newbies in this group who really just bought the book but don't know what it is. What is A Course in Miracles? And there are old-timers who have done the workbook before and read the text, and there are people in between who have done some of the text and read the manual because it was the shortest part, or started the workbook but couldn't make it through. And being in this class is holding you accountable. So it will help you follow through all 365 lessons. And if you don't know what the text is saying or what a particular term means, I will clarify that term for you and start to build in the metaphysical foundation that we really need to fully understand the workbook. Although the course tells us straight out, you can start anywhere. You can do the workbook first and do the text later. And that's how I did it, actually. I started with the workbook. It was the easiest. It was a lesson a day. That I felt that I could do. There were a couple of other things I wanted to tell you about. Let me just see here. I might have made myself a note. I'm going to help you cultivate a relationship with your inner teacher. Now, that's the most important thing about the workbook, which you could do on your own. The funny thing is that even though that's exactly what it's for, many people aren't sure that that is what is happening. I will be sure for you, because if you sincerely do this workbook, it has to be happening that you're developing a relationship with the Holy Spirit. But I'll help you discern between the voice of the ego and the voice for God, as the Course calls it, which is the voice of the Holy Spirit. And I'll help you recognize through your own experience when you are feeling the Holy Spirit. Feel that? Okay. When it comes to experience, there's going to be sensations that may be uncomfortable. You might tingle, you might feel pressure in your head, or your heart might feel like it's going to burst. You may cry, you might have anger come up and think, this isn't what I'm supposed to be feeling. The Course says that anger is never justified, but it doesn't say that we're never going to feel anger. Obviously we are, or we wouldn't have to do this course. So I'll invite you to feel through your feelings, to clarify your thoughts, to get to know yourself so that you can give everything to the Holy Spirit. Look at the ego with Jesus, we're told to do. Let me clarify that you can pray to Jesus, the Holy Spirit, or God, and it's all good. The Course tells us that Jesus is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the memory of God within us. But we use Jesus as a human being, to have a person to relate to. But he is no different than us in that he is simply a completely pure vessel for the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is reflecting God's light into our mind if we're willing to receive it. Even that can't really describe it, because we're receiving what we already have. In fact, the Course itself is not important. It's the awakening process that it offers us, which is the true value of it. The Course says there are only two teachers, the ego and the Holy Spirit. That's it. If we don't choose the Holy Spirit, we are choosing the ego. And that's what most of us are doing, and we're doing it unconsciously. Who even knew that we could choose the ego as our teacher? We all feel like the world is out there and it's happening to us. We are the victims of the world. The world is the cause, and then we experience the effects. But the Course says it's the opposite. We are the dreamer of this dream of the world. If you want to understand this better, in the online classroom there's a bonus room, and you can go there and watch a presentation that I made called The Metaphysics of A Course in Miracles, and you can watch the mythology of A Course in Miracles also. I've been breaking the Course down from different perspectives to separate out the Course teachings and then have them naturally reintegrate into me so that my understanding is deeper and wider. I don't think I finished telling you that in the online classroom there's another column where there are worksheets and tips and things like that that you can use to help you through practicing the lesson, which of course is the heart of the Course, where I'm giving you a video every day and working with you and your experience. But you can add that to it, and you can go to the bonus room, and there's art, there's music there, there are writings and teachings that help to illuminate what the Course is giving us, and coming at it from a different angle can really give you that moment, that aha moment. So you can take advantage of all of it or just a little of it. There's the possibility that there's too much and that you'll just be happy to get through that day's lesson without wanting all the extras. So pace yourself. It's just that there's a spiritual law that the Course talks about, and it's not the only spiritual path to do so, that says giving is receiving. And once we get the hang of giving, comes so naturally, it is our natural state, then there's just an overflow, there's just an abundance of everything. And that's what happened with this class, is that I just keep adding and adding and adding. Because another quality that occurs as you open up and start to contact your true self is a flow of creativity. Yeah, it's good. There is a voice of authority in the Course that is inarguable if you are truly interested in awakening. Of course, a lot of people come to the Course wanting their pain to stop. They're not really interested in awakening. They don't even know about awakening. They just know that they need something. And if we're drawn to the Course for any reason, that's good enough. We'll find out later what its true value is, what the real benefits are. In the meantime, though, you'll find as you apply the principles and the practices that just your daily life in the world will improve. You'll be more patient in traffic. You'll see people in another way, and it will improve your relationships. You will realize that even if you're stuck in a dead-end job and you're scared about what to do, that it doesn't really matter what your work is, that we're essentially here to love and be loved, and that you can be of value and have a purpose every day, no matter where you are, no matter who you interact with. It liberates us from anxiety and depression, which are just really clever ego distractions. That's all they are. We lose interest in them. I hope that Workin the Workbook is truly useful. If you use it well, I'm sure that it will be. And many, many, many blessings to you in this moment, now. now, now. I'll see you in next month's webinar. Namaste.